Okay.
Welcome everyone to the special City Commission meeting of Tuesday, April 28th, 2020. And with that, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the roll call vote of the commission. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle.
Present.
Commissioner Elder.
Present.
Commissioner Jenks.
Present.
Commissioner Olsman.
Present.
Mayor Paul, present. Because this is a special meeting of the City Commission, we can only discuss actions that are on the agenda, and we only have one item on the agenda, that is the study session of the budget for the year 2020-2021. And I'm going to turn it over to Tim Rowland to start that, unless Amy, you wanted to start first.
I just want to add that I went over the budget with Michelle. She pointed out a couple of typos that we had in some of the narratives. So Tim's going to make those corrections and we'll send out those pages to you. I think we'll probably it'd be easier just to mail them, don't you think, Tim?
Yeah, that's fine.
So you'll be getting some new pages. They'll have the page numbers on there, so you'll be able to put them into your budget book. All right, Tim.
Okay, let me pull my screen up here. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
All right, Tim, let's see. All right, do you have that? Can you do that now?
Yes.
A great shirt.
It is not.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a PowerPoint. Feel free to interrupt as I go if you have any questions or want to go through anything in more detail, but I'll cover the highlights of the budget. So first off, COVID-19, what have we done and what have we not done? We reduced the budget for state revenue sharing estimates, interest earnings, and building permit revenue, but it looks like it's going to be far more substantial than what we've done. The budget was prepared, in the early stages of this, so we really didn't know the extent or how long this is going to go on for. Looks like our largest concern is going to be the rec center. If we have to cancel pools and camps, we could be looking at a $300,000 net loss for the rec center, which would be just a disaster for that fund. So having said that, we're going to schedule another budget study session for September 22nd, 2020, and we're going to delay a number of capital expenditures as well as wage increases until after that meeting. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a list of projects that will be on hold until that point, but I'll present it as it's given to you. So there's no new personnel in this budget, and it proposes a 2.5% wage increase, which is consistent with the DPW contract. Taxable value for residential in the city increased by 3.99%. We're only able to capture the inflationary of 1.9%, which means our millage got rolled back. So as you can see at the bottom, our general fund and rec fund millage got rolled back to 17.0 mils. Our sanitation got rolled back to 1.54. Our debt's up by 0.22 mils. Then we have the new PA 345 millage, which is 2.29 mils. So overall, the city millage went up by 2.2 mils. So the new Act 345 millage. So it passed in March 2020. Part of the Long Range Budget Committee's plan to address the roads and liability costs for the city. And this freed up $800,000 from the general fund that was going towards public safety pensions. So what are we doing with the $800,000? We have $331,000 going to pay for a bond payment for bonds that were just sold earlier this week. Actually, we closed on them for that bond payment for the road improvements. And we have a $234,000 transfer to a new road maintenance fund to do heavy maintenance on the roads, bringing our road maintenance budget up to $400,000 per year. And then there was that $235,000 that was kind of discretionary that we talked about. I'm proposing we put that towards our OPEB liability this year.
If you have those other capital improvements, can't you use those as a counter?
We'll find out what he's
Maybe.
State share revenue is up to 633,350, but that's going to likely need a significant adjustment. I'm hearing that we could potentially see our state revenue sharing for this current quarter cut in half, because with everything being closed, the state's not taking any sales tax. The total tax with that new 345 millage will increase the average taxpayer's tax bill by $342, based on average taxable value of $155,000. Then this chart at the bottom shows you the purple is our budget, the blue is tax collections, and the orange is state share revenue. So you can see state share revenue is a very minor portion of our budget, substantially funded by taxes. Pension costs. So pension costs for a required MERS contribution is $1.596 million. That we also included above and beyond that an additional $258,843 to kind of try to bring our liability down. We are 61% funded as of 12/31/18. That's with everything that's going on in the market right now. We could see, who knows what's going to happen with MERS next year. I mean, we could see significant increases in our required contribution. And we also have $169,000 budgeted for defined contribution payments. For OPEB, we have $324,730 for pay-as-you-go to pay for the current retirees' health insurance. And we have in the budget, we have $423,000 towards our liability. So because of that, those savings from that 345 millage, we're increasing that by $235,000. So this is really us making an effort to address that liability. That's it's currently at $12 million, so it's only 12% funded. So we're really trying to put some money towards that to get that liability down a little bit. So this shows you the history of the general fund. General fund this year, $8.2 million budget. We're hovering right around that 39% fund balance, which is a very healthy fund balance level. It shows the same thing in a graph form. You can see the orange is the expenditures, blue is the revenue, and the gray bar is our fund balance, hovering right over $3 million. So where do we get our money from for the general fund? 79% is tax collection. So when we talk about with the COVID-19 and everything that's going on, we're going to collect this 79% of our budget for tax revenue regardless. That's locked in. Our biggest kind of up in the air item is the state share revenue, but that's such a small part of our budget that it's not going to be catastrophic towards us where it would be for some bigger cities. And where general fund money goes. So you can see public safety, 33%. Last year, that would have been 43%. But with us pulling out those pension costs, it really brings the public safety down and increases that budget for transfers out, transferring out those additional OPEB and road funds. So admin department, City Hall, there's no changes in our staffing level or anything here at City Hall. Our liability insurance is up 5% this year. We're averaging $320,000 in claims over the last 5 years. So that's kind of driving up our liability insurance. Public safety, they had a retiree of a lieutenant and they replaced him with a sergeant. So there's some wage savings with that. There's no change in their overall objectives, and their contract does expire June 30th of 2020 for the officers. We did have to increase our budget for professional services because we're anticipating a large increase in our Berkeley service contract for dispatch and additional services. At the library, there's no changing in staffing levels, maintaining all of our operations with the library network. We have in the budget for HVAC replacement as well as new technology improvements with the computers. There's no changes at DPW. They're going to do a new roof replacement on the south side of the building, and they're going to be overseeing a number of large construction projects this year, which I'll touch on here coming up. So the rec fund, I talked about earlier, their budget $2.2 million, but if you look at their fund balance, it's only $258,000. So if we're talking about potentially taking a $300,000 loss this summer on camps and pools, it's going to put them in the negative. So that's something we're really going to have to keep an eye on and make some, decisions on what we're going to do at the rec center. And this shows the same thing in graphical form. You can see that gray line, the fund balance is just so low at the rec center. We've increased it over the last couple of years, but it's still kind of down around $300,000.
That's increased it.
So where the rec fund money comes from, 56% programming, 41% from the general fund. So in the past, it's been closer to 51% from programming. We were able to get that up with the new latchkey fee rates and as well as the camp increases. We are doing a fee study right now to try to figure out the costs for these different rec programs and charge appropriate fees. But we really are making an effort to try to get those program revenues up so we'll be less reliant on the general fund. This budget did bring the general fund transfer down from 975 in the current year to 915, but we'll likely have to transfer more money now because of this COVID-19.
We're going to do some good things.
So there was a change at the rec center from a full-time to a part-time latchkey director. So there's savings with benefit costs associated with that. As I mentioned, we changed the fee structure for latchkey and we're doing the fee study. It's very difficult with the cost of the operations with the large building and the large 11 full-time staff members to garner that revenue to cover the costs down there. I mentioned 56% is covered by programs currently. On the road funds, they get their money substantially from the state through Act 51 revenue. We did change this year where we created a new fund for road maintenance so we could restrict those funds from that 345 savings. So the only road maintenance being done in the road funds is going to be the minor pothole patching. There's going to be significant money for tree, and then next slide, for tree trimming. We're going to do year 2 of the tree trimming throughout the city. So routine maintenance covers that tree trimming, the right-of-way maintenance throughout the city. And also snow removal, 17% is the major functions of the road funds.
Even though I know they can't hear me, I just feel like they can.
So as I mentioned, the road funds will only have $35,000 for that really minor road maintenance because the $400,000 is being moved to a new fund. So it'll be restricted for road repairs and not be used for tree maintenance or anything like that. It will go 100% for roads. We've seen improvements in the Act 51 funding from the state with the new gas taxes and other things that are coming from Lansing. But with everybody being at home, we'll probably see reductions in our Act 51 money in these coming quarters. Sanitation fund, $612,000 budget. We've improved here quite a bit in the last couple of years. If you look back 7-8 years, the fund balance had only been about under 10%. We're up to 17%, which is pretty healthy for that fund.
He says that's it.
You can see the gray bar. The fund balance is increasing a little bit over the last couple of years.
He hasn't taken out
Mr. Mayor, could you ask people to mute their phone because the side conversation is
so for go ahead.
I'm going to go through and mute everybody right now.
great? Thank you.
Okay, so for the sanitation fund, so 71% of the sanitation fund money goes directly to SACRA for recycling. There's some money in there for salaries and wages of the DPW staff, and then equipment rental is for the leaf trucks that go around the city to stuff the leaf stuff. Sanitation fund, as I mentioned before, is at its millage cap, so we have no way to get additional revenue for the sanitation fund. Fund balance sits at $99,000 at 6/30/19, which was a significant improvement for that fund. We're still paying for that single stream recycling at the SACRA. That's we're paying $1,097 per month for the next, I believe we're in year 3 out of 10 years. You can see the SACRA fee increased 3.5%. So when we look at only getting 1.9% inflationary increases, but SACRA is going up 3.5%, is something to keep an eye on going forward with the sanitation fund on our fund balance levels. And their goals are to continue to increase participation in all of our recycling programs and expand shredding and metal and electronics recycling throughout the city. The water and sewer fund gets all its money from the water bills, 80% water sales. The new sewer debt payment fee is 14% and the ready to serve fee is 5%. So you add those up, you're at 99% of their budget from the water bill. Where does the money go? 35% towards sewage from the county, 13% water purchases from SACRA, and then the big number here, 22% transfers out is something new this year. That's transferring out the money you collect from that sewer bond fee to a debt service fund to restrict that money for that debt payment. So it won't be used for anything else other than that debt payment on the sewer bonds. The water rate this year is going to increase 1% to $13.25. It's currently at $13.15. I really did the best I could to pass along as little of an increase as I could, given the new sewer debt fee that's on the bill currently. We got sewage increases from the county of 2%. You can see our bills monthly from the county are about $97,000 for stormwater and sewage. The water rate from Great Lakes Water Authority and Saukwa increased 2.5%. We have a budget for year 3 of the sewer lining program, $250,000, and that new $2.35 per unit for the debt payment on the sewer bonds, the $7.5 million sewer bonds. Construction. So this is probably the most aggressive year of construction we've ever had in Huntington Woods. $7.6 million in construction projects planned this summer. We have the sewer lining I mentioned, almost $1.3 million for sewer and road work on Nadine and York, $1 million for sewer pipe bursting, $1.75 million for sewer pipe replacement, and $3.3 million for road replacement and water main. Then we have $411,000 in capital projects, including $19,000 in PC replacements. We're still upgrading the Windows 7 computers to Windows 10 throughout the city. We're going to update the city's master plan for part of our redevelopment ready city certification. That's $25,000. Replace a server for $12,000. $65,000 for LED street light conversion. The payback on there is in approximately 5 years. So after that, we'll be saving significant money on our street lighting bills. Roof restoration on the south roof at DPW, $65,000. Make some HVAC improvements at the rec center for $10,000. Roof repairs and restoration for $70,000 at the rec center. Burton Park infield is, there's significant drainage issues there with the T-ball teams and water on the field. So we're looking to make some improvements to the drainage on that field for $40,000. The tennis courts throughout the city, they're in kind of rough shape. We've got some proposals for resurfacing and completely redoing those tennis courts, and that's roughly $600,000. So to kind of buy us some time to put some money aside for that, we're going to do some crack sealing to try to preserve those tennis courts for a little while longer. And we're going to replace the HVAC unit at the library for $45,000. Equipment replacement, DPW wants to replace a 1999 pickup truck for $41,000. The rec center wants to replace a pickup used for the parks maintenance employee. That's also $41,000. The sweeper used by the parks department to remove the snow outside of the rec center, city hall, and the city hall complex needs to be replaced for $39,000. And DPW wants to purchase a new trailer for $20,000. So as I mentioned, we're going to place a number of items on hold until after that September 22nd meeting. The server replacement, Burton Park infield, tennis court crack sealing, all of those vehicle purchases. There's a transfer to this budget stabilization fund. We're going to put all those on hold. Reynolds Park is currently budgeted in the current year, but we're going to put that on hold until after that September budget meeting. All wage increases other than DPW, who has a salary union contract, will be on hold. And we're going to continue to look for appropriate cuts needed as more information becomes available. So that's my presentation. So feel free to ask any questions or anything else you want to know about.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem Rozell.
I want to start with the Berkeley Public Safety Dispatch contract. When's the last time that they've raised our fee?
They haven't. We
Okay.
did an initial contract with them years and years ago, and it's just been going up by the cost of living since then.
So it's had an inflationary increase. And what are they proposing to increase that by?
We are still waiting for a proposal from them. This is something that's been actually in the works for about 2 years, tying up all the different services that we could provide together that they could do for us, and then they're going to make a proposal to us. So I don't have that right now.
Okay. What I think we should do is, just to have some numbers available, is contact Ferndale, it's who Pleasant Ridge uses, and perhaps the county that a number of communities use. Get cost estimate, maybe Ferndale, the county, whoever else, so that we can take this Berkeley contract and match it up against it.
We have already done that when discussions first came up that they wanted to take a look at an increase. And a lot of it was driven by the fact that they now have new 911 requirements that they have to comply with. They have to do some equipment upgrades. They have to increase the number of personnel that are available for the 911 calls. So we contacted Oakland County, gave them all of our information. They did give us a quote for that. And then Ferndale declined to quote on it, saying that they thought that they weren't going to be able to provide the service because they were already stretched too thin between themselves and Pleasant Ridge.
Okay. Second comment is regarding the rec center situation. So we're talking about $300,000 in fund balance is about all they have, and things are looking kind of grim. What is the plan with Parks and Recreation as we move forward? Are we paying employees who aren't engaging in programming right now? Do we anticipate paying them in the future? What does that look like, and what impact is that having on, a potential subsidy from the general fund?
All full-time employees are being paid right now. They are either working on programming for the summer because no decision has been made whether or not to cancel, and also with an eye toward fall and winter programming. They do things months in advance so that when those time frames roll around there, we have these the events and activities already in place. If we decide to cancel the majority of the activities, then we are going to have to take a look at furloughing some employees because the workload will be reduced if we don't go forward with the summer activities. But we aren't at that stage yet.
Okay.
Commissioner,
Yeah, I have a concern that if we don't show revenue shortfall until September, and any federal new programs come through, and they're working to try and get them to communities below 500,000, that our argument that we need replacement revenue and flexibility will fall on dead ears, because our budget will show that we have no dollar shortfall. I would like to see a revenue budget meeting shortly after there's a decision in regard to programming at the rec center.
I just want to, just so I understand that, if we're not generating revenue for a particular program, but we're not offering the program, we're not paying the instructor, we're not using the facilities, isn't that an offset? I don't understand. We would report all this lost revenue, but then not tell the federal government about all the unrelated expenditures we didn't have to make?
What is occurring with the CARES Act, which doesn't get to us?
I'm aware of that.
Yes, but what it says is they look at your budget, your most recent budget, and from that they deal with it. Now, if we have a budget that we've adopted that says we're going to have $300,000, whatever the amount is, that we're going to have a certain amount of revenue sharing money, we're going to have a certain amount of road money and things like that. But especially in recreation, we've got a budget where the camps are a fundraiser, the pool is a profit making, there's a whole bunch of profit making operations there, and we're projecting them. We can't just, normally these bills don't say, well, just write a new budget that fits the new bill. All I'm saying is, once we decide whether we're open or closed, if we see, as what Tim said, a $300,000 shortfall, then we really should adjust the rec center revenues and budget accordingly. He's pointed out The other things are very, very small portions of what we're doing. So when we lose a significant amount of revenue sharing, it's a small amount of our total budget. But the rec center, that summer programming gives them about $300,000 extra over expenses, that and the classes. So if they're shut down, we've got an issue on revenue. And all I'm suggesting is that it might be smart for the city to check with Chris Hackbarth and see what some of the bills are that are going in Washington and what they're saying about how they judge what your shortfall is.
Well, I mean, the federal government is telling municipalities to go bankrupt. I doubt they're going to be shoveling cash toward us to supplement lost revenue. The county got $16.8 million in CARES Act money. That was to reimburse for COVID testing, public health nurse overtime, hazard pay for sheriff's deputies, et cetera, personal protective equipment for people engaged with the public, plexiglass shields, $16.8 million of expenditure reimbursement. They didn't
Only for COVID.
look at our recording revenue fees are down and land record fees are down and vital record statistics fees. They didn't look at any of that. They reimbursed us a portion of expenditures. They don't care about our lost revenue. I mean, I'm just being realistic here. I don't want to go down the road that staff that's dealing with a pandemic is out tracking lost revenues, taking them away from real city business.
Well, that is basically what's going on in Washington. They are arguing for a new bill that looks at flexibility, replacing lost revenue, and loosening restrictions, which, as you've said correctly, is not allowed at all in the CARES Act.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Well,
I think there are both Commissioner Jenks and Commissioner Rosell have both raised some interesting and important issues. But I don't think we can plan, one, without knowing what the state order is going to be in a few weeks. And two, we can't plan our city operations on a potential bill that may or may not address the issues that we may or may not have at this point. And it isn't just the pool revenue, it's the Parks and Rec classes, it's also Latchkey, it's also Fruit Camp, it's also the pre-K program. But all of those revenues are also expenses. And from what I could tell from the budget, and Tim, please correct me if I'm wrong, the expenses versus the revenue, the cost to run these programs versus the revenue were somewhat equalized. If anything, we are not, quote unquote, making money off of these programs. So I think for right now, it's just premature to talk about those things until we have more clarity from the state in a few weeks. And until we have more clarity on the federal and from the federal side as well. So I think we need to just be flexible ourselves and adjust, and understanding that these programs are essential and critical to our community, but we are somewhat handcuffed at this point to make those decisions. And obviously we will address them when the time is right.
One thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if we could do, Tim had a slide in his presentation that had all of about $7.5 million of capital improvements, roads, sewers, that type of thing that are planned this year. And I'm wondering if that could be put, you know, on a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and included to residents with the water bill, so they can see where the money's going for the increased water bill bond payment and the road $345 and how that's all working. I want them to see concrete examples of where these items they've agreed to and things that the commission's initiated are going to, so they can see the money being spent. on a nice sheet. I mean, that's kind of summarizing it well. You can put a little more detail on it if you want, but I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I can do that.
Tim, could you respond to the commissioner's question? Are the rec center summer programs just break even?
So the pool and the camps are money makers for the city. So that $300,000 is a net loss after you take out all the. So say the pool didn't open this year, we wouldn't hire any lifeguards. So there'd be a savings there. We wouldn't hire any camp counselors, there'd be a savings there. So the net of that is a $300,000 loss. Because we're still paying all the full-time employees at the rec center at this point.
Okay, thank you.
We can, as I talked to Commissioner Jenks earlier today about reaching out to Representative Levin's office and the MML and SEMCOG regarding the budget and how it should be prepared, and we will do that and get some advice from them as well if we should,
Thank you.
if it's needed to reflect that potential. Any other questions? Amy, with that, for public participation, if you want to unmute the rest of the public and let me see if they have any questions.
Sure. It looks like most of them are muted themselves. I
Okay.
guess if somebody wants to raise their hand if they'd like to say something or unmute themselves.
Okay, I don't see any. So with that, I'll close public participation and have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.
thank you.
Thank you.